For ancient civilizations, the world was not divided into myth and reality. There was only what people could observe and what they could not yet explain. When early humans encountered strange bones, enormous skulls, massive footprints, or unfamiliar remains buried in stone, they did not assume these were traces of extinct animals. The concept of deep time did not exist. Instead, they interpreted these discoveries through logic shaped by their environment and limited biological knowledge. This is how many of history's most famous mythical creatures were born. They were not invented for entertainment. They were explanations for real discoveries that demanded meaning. One of the clearest examples is the Cyclopes. Ancient Greek mythology described Cyclopes as giant humanoid beings with a single large eye in the center of their forehead. For centuries, this image was accepted as a literal description of a creature that once existed. What ancient Greeks did not know was that Mediterranean islands contain fossilized skulls of dwarf elephants. These skulls are large, round, and feature a massive central hole where the trunk once attached. To someone unfamiliar with elephant anatomy, this hole looks exactly like a single enormous eye socket. When shepherds, travelers, or miners uncovered these skulls, the interpretation was obvious. These were the remains of giant one-eyed beings. The rest of the skeleton, often fragmented or buried deeper, reinforced the idea of massive humanoid size. The Cyclops was not fantasy. It was anatomy misunderstood. Another famous creature rooted in fossil discovery is the griffin. Described as a beast with the body of a lion and the head and wings of an eagle, the griffin was a powerful symbol across ancient cultures. Stories of griffins guarding gold deposits appear in Scythian and Greek sources. What these stories align with is the discovery of Protoceratops fossils in the Gobi Desert. These fossils feature a beaked skull, large eye sockets, for powerful legs, and often appear near ancient gold-rich regions. Nomadic tribes encountering these remains would see a creature that looked half mammal, half bird. The beak suggested an avian nature, while the body shape suggested a powerful terrestrial predator. The idea that such creatures guarded treasure came naturally when fossils were found near valuable resources. Dragons represent one of the most widespread mythical creatures on Earth. Appearing independently in European, Asian, African, and Middle Eastern cultures, dragons are described as massive reptilian creatures, often capable of flight, fire-breathing, or poisoning the land. The consistency of dragon imagery across cultures suggests a shared origin. That origin is almost certainly large fossilized reptiles and dinosaurs. Long before paleontology existed, humans uncovered enormous bones embedded in rock. These bones were far larger than any living animal they knew. In China, dragon bones were ground into medicine. In Europe, they were displayed in churches and castles as proof of slain beasts. The idea of fire breathing may have originated from toxic gases emerging from caves or volcanic regions associated with these remains. Poison water, dead animals, and sulfurous smells reinforced the belief that these creatures corrupted the land itself. To ancient people, dragons were not symbols. They were extinct predators whose remains still haunted the earth. Giants are another example of mythology rooted in real discoveries. Throughout Europe and the Middle East, legends describe races of enormous humanoids that once walked the land and were eventually destroyed. When massive fossilized bones of mammoths, mastodons, and other megafauna were uncovered, they were interpreted as the skeletons of giants. A mammoth femur alone is larger than an entire human leg. Without knowledge of prehistoric animals, the only logical conclusion was that these bones belonged to enormous humans. Ancient texts describe giants being killed by gods or driven to extinction by humans. In reality, humans may have encountered the last surviving megafauna and witnessed their disappearance. These memories, passed down through generations, became stories of fallen giant races. Sea monsters also emerged from real encounters and discoveries. Ancient sailors reported enormous serpentine creatures, tentacled beasts, and animals capable of dragging ships underwater. For centuries, these accounts were dismissed as exaggerations. However, modern science has confirmed the existence of giant squids, colossal squids, and massive deep-sea predators that were completely unknown until recently. whale carcasses in advanced stages of decomposition can appear monstrous, with exposed bones, elongated shapes, and strange textures. When these remains washed ashore, they were interpreted as monsters slain by the sea. Medieval illustrations of sea serpents often match the anatomy of real marine animals distorted by decay. The kraken, once considered pure myth, now closely resembles known giant cephalopods. Another misunderstood creature is the basilisk, described as a serpent or lizard capable of killing with its gaze. While clearly exaggerated, the basilisk myth may originate from encounters with venomous snakes such as cobras, whose upright posture and hooded appearance resemble depictions of basilisks. Sudden deaths following snake encounters, combined with a lack of understanding of venom, led to supernatural explanations. The gaze that killed was likely a bite unnoticed until symptoms appeared. Medusae and the Gorgons also have possible roots in real phenomena. The idea of a creature whose gaze turns people to stone may originate from encounters with highly toxic gases or environments where people were found petrified by mineral deposits over time. Certain caves release gases that can kill within seconds, leaving bodies stiff and immobile. Early observers encountering such sights would naturally attribute the deaths to a monstrous guardian. Even the famous centaurs may have emerged from real first encounters between cultures. When horse-riding nomads were first seen by civilizations unfamiliar with horses, the rider and animal appeared as a single creature. Ancient artists depicted these beings based on descriptions rather than direct observation, creating the image of half-human, half-horse creatures. Over time, this misunderstanding solidified into myth. What all these examples share is a pattern. Humans encountered something real but unfamiliar. Rather than dismissing it, they explained it using the tools available to them: observation, logic, and storytelling. Myths were not lies. They were early science. They preserved data across generations in narrative form. Fossils, strange remains, and rare animals were documented through stories long before writing systems existed. These myths carried warnings, locations, and knowledge. Modern science often treats ancient myths as primitive imagination. But again and again archaeology and paleontology prove otherwise. Myths preserve distorted truths. They are echoes of real discoveries filtered through human perception. When we strip away symbolism and exaggeration, what remains is evidence of a world far more complex and dangerous than modern humans realize. Ancient people did not invent monsters for fun. They encountered remnants of a prehistoric world and tried to understand them. The creatures they described were not supernatural in origin, but natural phenomena waiting for explanation. In many cases, those explanations arrived thousands of years later. Until then, mythology was the only framework capable of holding the weight of what they found, and even today, there may be discoveries waiting to become the myths of the future.